Raptors in detail. Okay, we got our special guest, SFNDR, who covers the NBA at large. He's an NBA reporter for SDPN Sports, but he also knows more about the Toronto Raptors, probably more than we do over here, definitely more than we do. So we brought him on so that way we can get to the details of last night's game, some questionable calls, how's RJ and IQ doing for the Raptors, and the Siakam trade rumors, man. We got to break all that down. And with me, as always, covering the league at large, my guy, Andrew Salib, the 1-2 combo.
We're here.
Let's get this thing going, man. Let's get this thing going. Andrew, how are you feeling today? SFNDR, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to talk. I'm also, I would love to, if we had more time, I would have loved to ask you guys Knicks questions about OG and whatnot. But yeah, excited to be on and chat.
The fit looks good, but Alex could tell you more.
We'll have you back on another time, man. We'll discuss Knicks, Raptors, everything. Look, they're gonna be playing each other on the 20th. Yeah, that's right around the corner. But I know you're pressed for time, so let's make sure we get all these questions done. Let's first start off with the calls last night, man, because it was a tight battle between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Toronto Raptors, and from the jump, it was just an even battle. You had RJ performing well, IQ performing well. LeBron and AD were going at it. But the one big controversy was the foul call at the end to help the Lakers seal the victory. And I mean, when you look at this game overall, the free throws don't even match, man. I mean, when you see that the Raptors had 13 attempts compared to the Lakers 36, something just seems off for foul calls that night. What's your takeaway from last night's game?
Yeah, I mean, look, there were 8 intentional fouls towards the end of the game to keep this thing going. So, even if you subtract that 8, it's still 28-13 in terms of the discrepancy of free throws. I've seen a lot of Lakers fans in my mentions going crazy, being like, hey, there were a lot of intentional fouls. All these were fouls. I think the biggest issue I had was the discrepancy from the Raptors side. There was a lot of contact on the Lakers as well. Scotty Barnes was getting to the basket. They were getting a lot of looks at the rim. I think the Raptors outscored them in the paint by 20 points last night. And if you're outscoring an opponent by 20 points in the paint, you should probably have at least an even amount of free throws. And so I think that was the big discrepancy on my side that I noticed. It was the calls from the Raptors weren't really matching the calls from the Lakers side.
For sure. And as you watch the game and you see how Sky is able to attack the paint, even Pascal Siakam, who's driving, there was no calls for either one of those guys. Not enough, in my opinion. But what from last night's game is a big takeaway for you? Like, you watch, especially with the trade edition, is there anything that's been standing out to you? Or is it just really RJ and IQ right now?
Man, I just think they have so much more offense. For them. And that has helped balance out the roster so much more because before the trade, they were sort of trying to find ways not to bleed points with either Scotty or Pascal off of the court. The numbers, it's still too early to determine like what the numbers look like, but for the most part, you're seeing the Raptors survive and even thrive with guys like Pascal and Scotty off of the floor because of RJ, because of IQ, and because of just more roster balance. You have more guard play, you have more playmaking and adding those two guys, and it's really helped invigorate their offense in general. So for me, I think the main takeaway from last night is just the ability for all these guys to coexist and be harmonious with each other. They flow off of each other really, really well. Scotty and Pascal are creating the advantages, but then RJ and IQ are making the secondary reads, whether it is shooting the ball, whether it is like flowing into a dribble handoff or a pick and roll and making plays out of it as well. So it's been really, really fun to watch this team offensively. They got to figure it out on defense, but the offense looks good.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, SFNDR. It looks like you have to run that back from the top on IQ and RJ because there's no audio for that. So if you could talk about the IQ and RJ and the offense for the Raptors right now, so that way everyone knows what you're talking about. Let's just start from the top.
Okay, all good. Yeah, no, look, for the most part, I think last night was evidence that these guys can all coexist together. You're seeing how harmonious having RJ, having IQ is to the lineup. Before the trade, the Raptors were bleeding points without Scotty, without Pascal. Now they're able to sort of sustain by throwing in RJ Barrett with the bench, by throwing in Emmanuel Quickly with the bench, staggering their starters a little bit more. And you see them have so much flow offensively. Last night is a great example. In the first and second quarter, it was RJ and Scotty kind of keeping the Raptors in it against the Lakers. Third quarter, IQ explodes for 11 points, gets the Raptors to have a 2-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And then Pascal and Scotty take over in the fourth. Obviously, the free throw discrepancy and whatnot, but there's a balance to the team now. And you can see that, especially on the offensive end, because of the additions of RJ and IQ.
SFanDR, when you're looking at the trade zeitgeist and everybody's talking about Pascal and that, where are some of the best landing spots for you, not only for the team, but for Pascal, because I'm sure you want to see him do well also.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Pascal is a guy who can maybe swing the title race in a lot of different ways, just because, two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA player, a guy who is like a proficient bucket, can defend multiple positions. Like, that's the type of player you can throw into any kind of mixing pot, if you will, and it'll get cooking. You know what I mean? For the most part, I like the Golden State Warriors as an idea for him because it gives him a chance to compete, throws him next to Steph Curry. He can play off of guys like that, be the secondary creator for them. I think it would work really well. I'm not sure what the package would be from the Warriors side, if they're willing to include a Jonathan Kuminga, if they're willing to include a Brandon Pajimski or anything like that. That would make sense to me. The other team is the Indiana Pacers. You obviously have Tyrese Halliburton. He's injured right now, but for the most part, they're trying to build a new contender, right? A new version of that championship level team. And for the most part, I think him and Tyrese could work really, really well together on the offensive end, and he'd be able to add that defensive punch. What the offer from their side is, they have a lot of different routes that they can go, right? Throwing Andrew Nembhard, throwing Buddy Hield, throwing whatever. There's just a different way that the Pacers can go about things compared to the Warriors, but either location seems fit to me.
I like the Pacers. I think what's great about the Pacers is that they're getting up and down in transition. And when Pascal won a championship, that's what he was doing with Kawhi, right? Like, he wasn't the main offensive operator. Another team that's playing more in transition right now is the Dallas Mavericks. How do you like his fit there? Is that a sleeper team for him?
It is a sleeper team. I think there are very viable ways for him to get there if there's sort of a third team that gets involved that might be able to send assets to Toronto, and Dallas is able to acquire Siakam, and there's sort of some kind of flow there. For the most part, I think if you think of the type of player the Mavericks desperately need right now, it's that big wing creator who can defend multiple positions, who can guard up and guard down. Right. And Pascal, I'm essentially describing Pascal at that point. When he's playing next to Luka, playing next to guys like Kyrie, he'll be able to feast off of the advantages that they create. Sending a bunch of double teams, he'll be able to cook one-on-one, even in transition. It would be an excellent fit. And honestly, I was saying this earlier in a group chat, but I do think if the Mavericks did get Pascal, they would be a championship contender almost right away, just because of how seamlessly he fits with that team. But it's a matter of what they have and what they're willing to give up, because I'm not sure I see the package there that I would see with Golden State or with Indiana.
For sure. And like he said, I think Pascal on the Mavs would just be the perfect fit. Andrew, as you brought up, because they're getting out in transition, right? Yeah. Funny enough, we did speak to Derek Harper, who covers the Mavs today on our on Knicks Fan TV, just to preview the Knicks and Mavs matchup tomorrow. And he said the Mavs, a backup center is what they need. And I was like, I find that interesting. I feel like Siakam would be exactly what they need, because I think Jones Jr. is a good player. I don't know if you necessarily want him constantly playing the four, and that's where I thought, and I like Siakam would be a good fit for there. But outside of the Warriors, Mavs, and Pacers, do you see the Kings jumping back in this thing? I know we've heard the talks that they're out of it because they don't want to deal Keegan Murray, but do you think the Kings could come back in there and say, you know what, we'll trade Keegan Murray and we'll go get Siakam, because we need somebody who's a little bit more versatile on this end, especially defensively, when you have someone like Domantas Sabonis playing your center?
I'll tell you right now, the Raptors are really close. with the Kings to make a deal. It was very, very close, and things kind of fell apart for multiple reasons. The one reason that's been reported today, obviously, is that Siakam didn't really see a future in Sacramento, didn't want to extend there, wasn't looking to extend and re-sign and commit to a max contract there. And from the other side, I don't think Sacramento was really interested in offering him a full year, 4-year, max contract. That being said, I think there was that level of uncertainty from the Raptors side of things in terms of the assets they were receiving. Obviously, the Kings said no Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray is not allowed in this trade. And so when you think of the other areas that they can kind of add from, maybe a Malik Monk, maybe obviously Harrison Barnes was mentioned, and Kevin Huerter and Davion Mitchell, there's picks to be involved. But I don't think that was enticing enough for the Raptors to move off of Siakam, especially considering that Sacramento didn't really get a committal from him to re-sign. So the Raptors were close. The Kings were really close, but obviously things fell apart near the end of that.
What was Scotty working on this summer? That's what I want to know, because that shooting got a lot better. It's a guy that I really liked since Florida State, even since college, like the way he was pressuring guys full court. He always made the right pass at the right time. I think that's an underrated skill of his. But do you have any insight on how he worked on his game this summer?
So he has a specific trainer that he works with. The name is escaping me. I apologize.
Okay.
But he's been working with this guy for a couple of years now. And shooting has been a huge part of his regiment for the last 2 off seasons. There was some big questions going from year 1 to year 2 about, his sort of approach to the off season. But I think he changed that this year in the sense that he was working tremendously on his shooting, getting into runs, also figuring out a way that he can use his jumper while playing. So he was playing in runs a lot more. Right. He was getting involved in like whatever run that was happening in LA, whatever run that was happening in Miami, and in-game live action stuff really helped him get his jumper set. So he looks great, man. The 3-point shot obviously is a huge evolution. It would be a massive leap if you compare other guys that have made big 3-point shooting leaps. He'd be near the top of the list. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the evolution. The other side is he's looked incredible defensively. The ball is in his hands more. He's more aggressive. He's getting downhill. He's becoming the complete package. And obviously that's why the Raptors want to build around him, right?
Yeah, there's not a lot of buzz around him becoming a superstar. Way back in the draft, I said Rockets should have definitely took him at 2. That didn't happen, but that's a whole other topic for another day. Yeah. I just wanted to toot my own horn real quick. But I would ask you this. Do you believe there's still a superstar ceiling for Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, especially with the shooting. I mean, the shooting really it changes the equation here. Before the 3-point shooting, which was like, near 32%, right, in his rookie year, you were looking at a guy who could be a really good all-star player, right? Maybe a multi-time all-star player. But now with the shooting touch, now with the ability to hit, 37, 38, 39% of his threes, you're looking at a guy who has a very complete offensive package, who can work both on ball and off ball, who can create for others, who is able to get downhill. He's actually a beast, at the rim as well. We talked about that earlier with the Lakers game. It's really the complete package of what you would expect a star or a superstar could be. It's just seeing if this 3-point shot will stay and if it's sustainable. If we get like 2 years of this, then yes, absolutely a superstar level player.
Sorry, Alex, one last thing. So what does he have to do? What are the improvement areas that you believe for him to get to that level?
So how this happens with a lot of stars. They'll get to a point where one night it'll be 20-10-5 on 50% shooting, doing everything. Another night it'll be 13-5-6. And I think it's a level of consistency in your approach game to game, right?
Okay.
That's how you stack up really, really good games and how you're able to essentially stack up great performances. That goes from all-star level player to superstar level player. That's the big difference to me. You look at other players in the league, the same thing applies. It's not having to wait and kind of
know what you're going to get game to game.
Exactly is the words I would use. Thank you very much. Yeah. So ultimately that's it. Consistency in your game.
And that's kind of why they made this trade, right? I mean, there's that whole clip of Masai talking to Manuel quickly saying he sees the perfect fit between him and Scotty Barnes. I mean, if you move Siakam, you still have RJ who's able to get downhill, as you already noted. So is that the core right there moving forward? It's Scotty, IQ, and RJ, or is there another player? Because who is it? Johnson from the Atlanta Hawks. That's been somebody, if Siakam were to go to the Hawks, that's another guy that I think they would look to replace him. And that's another, you talk about a real young core that with a lot of upside.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think with the if there is a Pascal trade, they're looking to acquire another guy to add to that core. Who that guy is, I think we've mentioned a bunch of names, right? Sacramento, they're going to be looking at Keegan Murray and seeing if they can add him. In Atlanta, it's Jalen Johnson or Onyeka Okongwu or even like AJ Griffin, who doesn't get any playing time there. In Indiana, it's like, let's see if we can get Andrew Nembhard or Jarris Walker or something along the lines of that. And so they're looking to stack these younger players next to Scotty so that they can develop over these next couple of years. I also wouldn't be surprised if, given how well the Raptors have played in the first 5 games with Pascal, with RJ, with, Siakam and them, if they were to keep Siakam and actually extend him. I would not be surprised at this point if that happened, especially given the offers out there for Pascal. So if they're not getting the return that they want, they can extend him at any point in time this season and sort of just go from there.
I never really thought about this, but it feels like the big position is a position they could move on or they would like to acquire, even though at this point you're just trying to get the most amount of talent possible. And maybe you're not thinking so much about fit, but just watching what Anthony Davis did to them last night and how they really can't get a hold down there, underneath the boards and all that. Is there some young bigs that they're looking at acquiring?
To be fair, Jakob Poeltl was out last night, so he was out indefinitely, which is part of it. But also, I don't necessarily think Jakob is the long-term fit next to a guy like Scotty Barnes. You want a guy who can stretch the floor for you, be a guy who can block some shots for you. The prototypical type
Miles
of guys
Turner?
I look for. Miles Turner, Kristaps Porzingis, Chet Holmgren. Those type of guys are the type of guys that you need to pair alongside a Scotty Barnes moving forward. Those types of players are also really rare, right? Like we listed 3 guys, but that's about it. Like those are really the only guys out there that are elite at both blocking the shot and shooting the ball from outside. So I think it's just tough to find those type of players, but that's the type of player you want to pair alongside Scotty, especially at the big.
So it's Scotty, and then find everybody else for the Toronto Raptors moving forward.
I would say it's Scotty and IQ, man. It's Scotty and IQ.
Scotty and wow, look at that. Scotty and IQ. You don't think RJ's part of the plan?
I think RJ could be. And man, by the way he's been playing recently, he very well is. But at the end of the day, like you want to see that for a consistent stretch of time. You guys are Knicks fans. You guys know it, right? Like if you can get a consistent level of play for long stretches from RJ, then yes, absolutely. He's a long-term player for this team. But for now, I'm not sure. I want to just wait and see what happens, to be honest with you, and how he grows.
Enjoy the process, right? Enjoy the process.
Exactly.
Enjoy the process is definitely the way to talk about it. SFNDR, we appreciate your time, man, for hopping on the show and giving us the insight for the Toronto Raptors. Please let our listeners know where they can find you and if you got any upcoming work that we should know about.
Yeah, of course. All my video stuff, podcast stuff is on SDPN Sports. You can listen to the Objective Basketball Podcast. We talk about the NBA, Raptors, and everything in between. And then, I do some Raptors writing at Forbes as well. So, yeah, check me out there. Appreciate you guys having me on as always, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you for coming through. And that was SFanDR. You can go catch him over at SDPN Sports, covering the NBA at large and the Toronto Raptors. But let's get back to this conversation. Andrew. Well, actually, hold on. Let me reset first. Salute to the NBA Nations. Thank you all for tuning in today for another episode of the NBA Report. Make sure that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure the links to all these videos. And make sure to follow. If you don't listen to us live, man, make sure to follow us on any audio listening platform. As I'm here in apparently the Matrix, where Andrew is just me and I'm just seeing myself. It's all good. As we're standing up over here. But yeah, make sure to follow us everywhere you can on all social media platforms. We're on IG, Twitter, so forth. And hey, this is what we do. We bring on guests. That way we can get more insight to the teams that we cover. And last and certainly not least, make sure to support our sponsor, Prize Picks. Okay, use that promo code NBAR to get up to a $100 match. Andrew, SFNDR gave us like a lot of insight, man. Especially
that was fun, man.
Yeah,
that was fun. Like I really enjoyed hearing that Scotty Barnes stuff. Like just covering him in the draft and seeing the young superstars SFNDR that he could be. Right? I mean, that was a lot of fun just learning more about his development.
Yeah, for sure. And learning about his development is it's also interesting to see like how Messiah is positioning this, right? Because there were questions last year and we usually see that sophomore slump. And now that you see that he's improved his shooting, they're going all in, trying to build in around him. You heard it here first. It's IQ, it's Scotty and IQ as kind of the next building blocks moving forward. And then just trying to figure out how you build around him. But let's get back to the game, man. Let's before we talk about Scotty, let's rewind, go back to the game because SFNDR wasn't too thrilled with the lack of calls in that game either. I mean, like I said, you get 13 attempts at the free throw line for the Toronto Raptors to 36 for the Los Angeles Lakers. And it's not like Siakam, RJ, and Barnes aren't attacking downhill. You know what I mean? And so for the fact that they can't get any foul calls, and then next thing you know, you see a foul call on, who is it? Reeves was able to draw the foul call, get to the free throw line, and you had others that just tilted the game towards the Lakers' favor. It can make one coach heated. And Gamba, if you can get the clip of Darko just enraged about last night's call, so that way we can listen to that and discuss. That'd be great. But man, this guy was heated. Andrew, I don't know if you saw the clip yet, but this guy was just angry.
His eyes.
Yeah. Players in our team as well. How's possible that Scotty Barnes, who is all-star caliber player in this league, he goes every single time to the rim with force and trying to get to the rim without flopping and not trying to get foul calls. He gets 2 free throws for the whole game. How's that possible? How are you going to explain that to me? They had to win tonight? If that's the case, just let us know so we don't show up for the game. Just give them a win. But that was not fair tonight. And this is not happening first time for us. Scotty Barnes is going to be all-star. He's going to be the face of this league. And what's happening over here during whole season, I've been holding it back. It's a complete crap.
Coach, do you feel like you're getting any explanations at all? That offensive foul, did you see, like, get any explanation?
No, there is no explanation. They just come up there, they review and they see what they want to see. They don't want to hear us, what we got to say. They don't want to hear the players. They don't just want to protect us. Over again, they got 36 free throws, 23 free throws in the fourth quarter. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? How are we supposed to play?
Is this a one-off, or do you feel?
Woo! I'm sorry, Alex. That looks like an SNL skit or something. That was hilarious, bro.
Man, I like seeing refs. I mean, not refs. I like seeing coaches just, stand up for the players, man, and talk to us, because sometimes it just gets out of hand. You know what I mean? Like, these type of games do get out of hand. And for a young team that's trying to position themselves, because the Raptors are not too far from the play-in right now. Mm-hmm. You talk about they're just a game or two out, and you have the Nets in front of them, you have the Bulls in front of them, and they're in position to compete. And, as SFNDR said, like, maybe you run it out through the course of the rest of the season because they're doing so well, 3-2 after the shakeup with their roster getting IQ and RJ. This is a team that could potentially make the play, and then you can say, hey, we can build off of this because it's such a young team. So I understand the passion, especially you're going against the Lakers, man. You're going against the Lakers. You're going against LeBron and AD, and you're right there. And then to lose like that, and especially when you see Siakam just hit the 2, and if he just was a little bit further behind the 3-point line, that could have been a tied game going into overtime. That's rough.
Yeah, I love the passion. I would say, like, this is going to get the conspiracy theorists rolling, and the Lakers are one of the best teams at getting to the line, and they're really good at not letting their opponents get to the line. How much of that is favoritism? I don't know. But I know one thing, like, this is a team that you could use the rebuild word around, but I know just from watching him right now, he's never going to be using the T word. Like, this is not a coach that wants to take, from what I'm seeing right here. Like, he's going to want to compete no matter what their situation is and if they're rebuilding or not. I really love the competitive nature in which he's approaching this team with, and I love the passion, as you said.
For sure. Do you think this changes anything for the Raptors moving forward? Because sometimes, like, there are games, and like I've seen this, like, as a Knicks fan, where Randall and Brunson should have gotten to the line more. And this happened for Brunson. I mean, you had Tibbs not too long ago complaining in some of these games where Brunson was getting just demolished while attacking the paint and didn't get to the free throw line. Do you think that there's been a change in how the game is being called on a night tonight? Because it's been inconsistent, man. That's the one thing I noticed for this season, and even you can even say last season, is that the one thing with referees, I know it's a difficult job. It's not just to say that everyone, like, stinks, right? But there's just some games where you just see that it's not consistently called, and it ruins the ebb and flow of the game. And I can understand why a fan base, or all fan bases, are aggravated at the refs.
Yeah, I mean, there's no consistency, and there's definitely no consistency to how the games are ref between the regular season and the playoffs, right? Like that's totally different. And you're a Knicks fan. You say there was no consistency this year, no consistency last year. I would argue there hasn't been consistency since the Derek Harper era, when you could just hand check all the way up. Like we never really know. They come up with new rules and new focus points every year. I don't know when's the last time it really has been consistent.
Yeah, and I mean, look, even at the start of this year, they were, given text for flopping and stuff like that. I'm getting fined. I haven't seen any lately, but they're really trying to make an emphasis on that. But I think the one
there's like a new emphasis every year, right, Alex?
There is a new emphasis every year. It's like even with James Harden and Trae Young, where it's like you can't draw somebody from talent right behind you, right? They wanted to cut that out because guys were just free throw hunting, man, which that's not how I want to watch basketball. I don't want to see just everyone at the free throw line. I want to see a nice flow to the game, running up and down, a good pace. And the one thing I will say is that when you start to see this, when it's such a big discrepancy, is that it changes the game for an entire team, right? So if you're, and look, Emmanuel quickly, 6 fouls, fouled out of this game. You know what I mean? And this is the second time. I think this is like the second time he's been in foul trouble. I'm not sure if he fouled out in his first game as Raptor. I can't remember, but it's stuff like this where you're just changing the entire course of the game. 2 quick fouls. We all know how that is. Like, oh, now I got to lighten up. You change the entire system of like the entire flow of the game. But when it's consistently throughout the regular course of the game, like it's hard for a team to quickly change how they defend. So that's where, to me, it's like, that's why I just want to, like, what is the consistent standard of playing defense in the league, especially when you have somebody like Braun and AD who can get downhill, and I already know that if you're bigger and stronger, that sometimes you're not going to get the whistle, but they get the whistle a fair amount at a time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that complain, that the rules are too tailor-made for the offense. Like I was watching the Pacers versus Boston, and it really felt like at times they were just running up and down, playing no defense, maybe partly because the way the game is officiated. I don't know. But do you think there's any rules, or there should be focus points on giving a little bit more of an advantage to the defense?
I think there should be. I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more defense played. I mean, I'm not trying to say let's go back to like the 90s and we're just getting under 100 scoring game, under 100-point games. Like I'm not asking for that at all.
I think the players are just too talented at this point for that to even happen, no matter what the rules are.
For sure. But the fact that this year, I heard that the number right now that the points being averaged is 150 points per game. That's high. That's a lot of offense, man. And I know that everyone's trying to get more threes up. They're trying to make this. I mean, the moniker for the league now is that it's a layup line and 3-point attempts. And I know that's not necessarily the best type of basketball people want to watch. They love that creativity of just working the post or the mid-range jumper. Like you think about Kobe or Jordan or anybody else. You can even go think of like prior to when the Warriors like really changed the game and it was all 3-pointer. Like I remember Steph just running floaters constantly, getting some mid-range jump shots. Before it was just, hey, we're going to take 10 threes a game. Like I was looking at Paul George's numbers. I'm seeing he's taking 20 shots, half of them are threes. I'm like, wow, that's where we're at today, where we're just taking half. Like I'm going through prize picks. I'm trying to see, hey, what's the attempted amount here? I see Tyler Herro with, was it more or less than 8.5 3-pointers attempted? I'm like, we're at 8.5 now? Like that's a lot, man. That's a lot. And I think part of that is that you want to, like, I get that you want more offense. People are more engaged in offense. They want to see the playmaking and stuff like that. I mean, that's what they're doing for the NFL too, but I would like to see some resistance to make it a little bit more challenging when I'm watching a game.
And I don't know if we have to move the 3-point line back or what we have to do, but there seems to be an advantage when you do shoot more threes. I mean, that's why teams are doing it. It's one of the issues that the Suns have. Like they're just trading 2s for 3s at times. And we're seeing more and more of the league shoot 40+% from 3. We're almost seeing like 50, 40, 90 teams at this point.
Yeah.
Which is a huge increase. So do we have to move the 3-point line back? I don't know, but I know the way guys are shooting it from 3, I don't blame the teams for shooting that much. It's a competitive advantage at this point, even though I think things almost evened out since the Steph Curry era, since everybody's doing it. Now you have to find new ways to get advantages.
For sure. I mean, the Rockets, like any Daryl Morey team, was like the epitome of like 3 and layup line, especially with James Harden at the helm. But let's keep this train moving, Andrew, because I got to ask you about the IQ and RJ, acquisition for the Toronto Raptors. And Esfandiar, you heard him say it, man. Like it's RJ's been playing well. His ability to get downhill definitely helps that team. IQ shooting helps that team, especially when you think about Scotty Barnes in the future. I like what I've been seeing from this team right now. And, with RJ being on this team and not having to share the same space with Randall, right? Because both those guys occupied that same space, like 15 feet within. They like to play bully ball. I think you really get to see that now because even though Siakam likes to do something similar, I don't know if you would necessarily call it bully ball from Siakam, but he does like to get downhill. He has more to his game, like a floater. He's a little bit more creative. He's got a spin move in there, but that Siakam is at his best when he's attacking out in transition and just and flying up and down the court. Barrett, he can do that, but he can also attack in the half court because even in the half court, he can just somehow get downhill. May not be the greatest finisher, but he's just able to get downhill and help that half court offense when it's just stuck in the mud. I feel like that's been a good addition for the Raptors. And then when you talk about quickly, the shooting man is what gives the spacing for this team. And if you're looking to have a good pick and roll player with IQ, if you get IQ and Barnes doing some pick and roll stuff, that's where I think that's going to take the team to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, RJ, as you know, there was a lot of areas he could have improved upon, especially when it comes to catch and shoot. I think he only shot 40+% 1 year in the NBA, and the rest, it was kind of tough from three. But he is just like a good all-around basketball player. And you heard SFanDR talk about like he helps him in the starting lineup, but he also helps him with the second unit because he could do a little bit of everything. And you're right. It was never a great fit with him and Randall and even Brunson because they're all playing ISO basketball and they're kind of getting in the way of what RJ does, even though RJ wasn't the main option there. With IQ, we talked about Masai a little bit. Like he was on the phone with Quickly, like, you're the perfect fit. Like we wanted you here. And he wasn't just saying that, like it was apparent. Like if you watch the way Quickly plays, he would just fit so well and better with a guy like Scotty Barnes more than Brunson and a Julius Randle. And even the coach player fit was a lot better, right? Like you see this coach who was going crazy yesterday and super angry, telling him to have more fun the other day, and Quickly said he never even heard anything like that before. So he doesn't have, also, he's not going to have those bright New York lights on him. Not saying he didn't thrive. Like he was runner-up sixth man of the year, but I think there'll be even more freedom in Toronto. And as I said, I just love the idea of having like a big initiator with Scotty Barnes and then a guy who could have on-ball usage as quickly as well. And I talked about it, like the Kyrie LeBron thing, the Luka Kyrie thing, the Jamal Murray Jokic thing. We could go down the list, but I love that fit and I love everything about what this team is doing. And I think it's going to be a really interesting future moving forward.
For sure. And look, looking at those two players right now on this team, RJ is shooting currently 59% from the field, shooting 50% from three, obviously with two big games. Most recently, those are gonna help his numbers. And then you have him averaging, where are the points? Why is it flying away from me? He is averaging 21 points. He's averaging 7 rebounds and 3 assists per game right now. For Quickly, we're talking about a guy who's averaging 43% from the field, 46% from downtown on high volume. That's 7 attempts per game, averaging 18 points. He's getting close to 5 rebounds, over 6 assists per game for Quickly right now. It seems like this new change of scenery is helping both those guys. And I think you nailed it on the head, Andrew. Like these guys there's a lot of overlap with Randall and Brunson in New York, right? Where a lot of those guys, like they need the rock in their hand. And now you get to put the rock in those guys' hands and not necessarily do like anything else. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like kind of reorganizing what your words are saying over here. But it's like, I'm thinking like with Brunson and Randall, you talk about that small guard, like that small player, big player initiator, right?
Yeah.
And if you need that means they need to hold the rock for most of the time. So my thought process is that if you're going to have that, and even if you throw RJ in there, they always get more opportunities on the Raptors to do that than the Knicks.
Yes. And Quickly's just a modern basketball player. Like you talked about how he could shoot it, but the way he shoots it, he kind of gets it off. Dame Lillard, when he's playing at his best, he gets his shot off before the defense is even set. Like I think Quickly has some of that ability as well to get like early shot clock looks up and just really quick hitting offense, no pun intended with his last name. But I just think he's like a really modern basketball player. And when you put him next to another modern basketball player like Scotty Barnes, I mean, Masai wasn't lying when he was saying that was the ideal fit. And I think Quickly really thrives in Toronto. I mean, he just put up 20 plus last night, but I think those numbers could go even up more from here on out. So I love the opportunity for him, and RJ's home, man. I think that's big time when you're playing in your hometown.
Where do you think this team goes moving forward, Andrew? Do you think this team, because right now, if we look at the schedule, or not the schedule, but if you look at the standings, right now they're on the outside looking in of the play-in. They're 15-22. Ahead of them is the Brooklyn Nets, who are 16-21, and then above them are the Chicago Bulls, who are 17-21. The Chicago Bulls just getting back Zach LaVine. And when you look at the rest of the East, it's a tight race from 3 down to 8. I mean, 6 are 23-12. Knicks are 22-15. Miami Heat are 21-15, as well as the Pacers, the Cavs, Orlando Magic are 21-16. So if the Raptors are going to make any push to even have an opportunity of just continuing their season, they have to get that play-in spot. Do you think they're capable of doing that?
Yeah, I also think a lot of it comes down if Pascal will stay, right? Like, it's going to be a lot easier to get to that play-in spot if Pascal is there. I would also say, like, they have been doing some of this, what I'm about to say already. I think they really have to revolve everything around Scotty Barnes, even though Pascal is such a great player at this point. So he has to tap into that, what he was doing when he was playing with Kawhi Leonard, and have that mindset moving forward. There has been more of that. Like, I think there's less usage with Pascal this year already, but he has to realize that he's not going to be their first guy moving forward. It doesn't even matter if he's a better basketball player than Scotty Barnes right now, but just for the development of this team, we have to get Scotty Barnes to the best level possible, and things have to revolve around him.
Okay, so you think if they trade Pascal, the thoughts of even getting the play-in are just out the window?
I think it's tougher. I think you focus on development, and it's a soft rebuild. I said, like, I don't think Darko is going to ever tank. I don't know if that's in his DNA, but we might see people like disappearing in those last 4 weeks, right? Like, that's how it goes sometimes. Or like hammies and what are the other common injuries when the end of the season's coming on?
Toes, you can get toe injuries, hamstring injuries.
So
more obscure injuries that we probably never even heard of, a knee injury.
Right, exactly. So we might see some of that, but those guys are going to compete. And you see the fire in Darko's eyes. I don't think he's trying to tank. I think those guys are going to compete and just really, as SFanDR said, just focus on the development of Scotty Barnes and quickly, and then maybe make some moves to build around those guys in the offseason.
Absolutely.
You could be patient with this team, right? Don't you think?
I think so. Like, you don't have to necessarily rush anything. I mean, Scotty's 22, 23? Exactly. He's around there. Like, what's the rush? I mean, Quickly's 24. They're at that same age where you can just wait a little bit, right? No, I think the age that most players win their first championship is 27, 28, around there. So if you think about that, Scotty Barnes has got a way to go. If you believe that Scotty Barnes can be that superstar to lead a team to a championship title. So if that's your thought process, you got some time, but you definitely want to see, as what you saw in like the Celtics when they got Tatum and Brown, right? You want to see that initial jump of saying, oh wow, we're competitive like at this juncture. So maybe next season you want to say, hey, for such a young team, after having an offseason together, they're on the upper end of like a play. And maybe they're like 8 and 7. And then from the year after that, you're saying, hey, we got to be in the top 6 and keep that thing rolling.
Hey, Alex, they're a better fit than Tatum and Brown.
Oh my goodness! I'm not talking about fits. I'm just talking about product on the floor. Andrew.
When Tatum gets in the conversation, I just have to throw a little, little.
Yeah, I get you. So how do you feel about the Bucks the other night?
Man, Dame Lillard, I don't know, man, but I do believe, I'll go back to my original take. I do believe in Dame Lillard and Giannis as playoff performers more than Tatum and Brown, bringing it back to Tatum and Brown.
You heard it here from Andrew first.
Wait, so you think it's over, Alex? You think it's over for my narrative?
It ain't looking too good. I'm not saying it's over. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to look. I expect the Bucks to be. They should be in the Eastern Conference Finals, man. Honestly, they should be in the Eastern Conference Finals just because you got Dame. And I mean, you got Giannis and Dame. I mean, maybe Giannis is much more durable than Joel. You still got to wait for Joel to show up in the playoffs to get just past the second round. I believe in Giannis. I think it's going to be a Bucks Celtics unless the Miami Heat decide to somehow replicate whatever they did last season.
Yeah. We need to stop. I don't want to hijack what you're saying. First of all, maybe the Knicks have a chance with all this, with all these problems in the East. You never know, huh?
I feel like the Knicks could get, I mean, they're 4 right now. They honestly, like, after the way they clean Phillies clocks, they might be able to get to number 3.
Yeah, Knicks are looking good. I'm not, I'm not the biggest believer in the Celtics, and my Bucks narrative is not looking good. And I think the Heat, we have to see what playoff Jimmy's going to do. But man, the Knicks are looking really good right now. The Knicks are looking really good right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. But so let me do a nice reset over here and support our sponsor over here for a quick second, Andrew. Shout out to Prize Picks. All right, shout out to NBA Nation for tuning in for another episode of the NBA Report. Doing a good job over here covering the Raptors. And now we're going to talk to you about our sponsor, Prize Picks. All right, make sure to use that promo code NBAR to get up to a $100 match. Everyone out there, if you want to make the game a little bit more interesting while you're sitting at home and watching it, I download the app Prize Picks, because when I'm at home watching, I'm like watching the entire slate of basketball, whether it be on TNT, ESPN, or I'm just watching League Pass as a whole. Prize Picks makes it just that much more interesting, all right? You can choose any player from any statistical category, from points, rebounds, assists. You can do player combos. You can do points combos. You can do field goals attempted, three-pointers attempted. They got the entire array of selections for you when it comes to choosing any statistical category, and it makes it that much easier just to have more fun while watching the game, okay? And for tonight, I'm going to tell you my selection for tonight. I decided to take a step back, Andrew. I usually go 5 or 6 players. I decided to go with 4 players tonight. This was what was intriguing to me, and I felt like this could be my lock for tonight. All right. So to start off with, I'm going to go with Nikola Jokic going against the Utah Jazz. I like choosing Jokic when it comes to points, rebounds, assists, because I feel like he's just an automatic. It's just automatic, especially when I see 45.5. I just feel like that's automatic for Jokic. He's able to just sleepwalk into a triple-double every single night. Against Utah, the first time they played them this year, it was a tight contest. I expect another one tonight against the Utah Jazz. Another selection I'm making, I'm going to stick with the hot RJ Barrett. Okay,
Ooh. Broadway Barrett. Can we still call him Broadway
Barrett? I don't know if you can use it Broadway anymore. We got to go back to the old term, the Maple Mamba. Now that he's back in his home country,
Maple Mamba. Okay,
there you go, the Maple Mamba, as they called him. The Toronto Raptors, on the second night of a back-to-back, they're going against the Los Angeles Clippers. RJ has usually performed well when they face the Clippers. I'm choosing him for more than 17.5 points tonight. My next selection, De'Aaron Fox. The Sacramento Kings are playing the Charlotte Hornets, okay? I'm choosing Fox for more than 28 points tonight, because the last game that they played earlier this month, he put up 30. Hornets don't really have a good defense. I feel like he's going to be needed in order for them to get a win tonight. I'm going with Fox for more than 28 points. And then last, but certainly not least, I'm choosing Lou Dort. I'm going with Lou Dort for less than 4.5 3-pointers attempted. This guy doesn't usually put up more than 5, and I feel like against a tough Miami Heat team, Eric Spoelstra just getting that contract extension for 8 years, $120 million. There's a reason why. I'm thinking the Miami Heat are going to make sure that he doesn't get any 3-pointers off. They're going to be chasing him off the line. So I'm choosing less than 4.5 3-pointers attempted. That's my slate for Prize Picks. Andrew, where are you going tonight?
From the Maple Mamba to the Red Mamba. Kevin Huerter. Don't they call him the Red Mamba? Or do they call him something else?
I think they might, man. Talk about the guy. He's from New York, though. He is from New York.
New York State, I think.
New York State, exactly. Yeah, pretty sure he went to Shen. All right, pretty sure he went to Shen up there. That's essentially like a college campus.
Okay. I will give him the New York since he's tough. Since he can hoop, we'll give him that New York tag. All right. So we got Kevin Huerter, more than 10.5 points. I think Charlotte can't guard the Red Mamba, especially with that movement shooting he performs. Jalen Johnson, always loved his game since the draft. He's playing against Philly, and he's been playing really well. So I got more than 15.5 points. I agree with you at Jokic. I think he's going over on the combo, but I also think he's going over on the points, which I have is 24.5. And Kawhi Leonard, he had a great week. Just signed that extension. So 6.0 rebounds, he's probably going to have 8 rebounds just come his way without trying with a week like this. Don't you think, Alex? We're going to go more than.
I like that. I like those selections. I think Kawhi's going to have a good night tonight, man. You got the contract extension. You see that they're trying to extend Paul George too.
Yeah, they are. Podcast P. They should do that right on the podcast. Have the negotiations on the podcast.
Have the negotiations on the podcast. That'd be crazy. I would love to hear it, though. I like to hear how these negotiations go down. Have the agent right there with Ballmer. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, we got to see that. We got to see that, P. Get it done.
Got to see that. Got to see that indeed. Look, Andrew, I gotta ask you a few questions on the Lakers side, because even though they got this win and it was a tight contest, does this change? Oh, it's Lakers checking, man. Does this change anything for the status of the Lakers moving forward? Like, do you believe in them more? Is this still a team that could potentially go back to the Western Conference Finals? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like when we had P on, I talked about a different podcast, P, not the Paul George podcast. I'm talking about Pee Wee the Plug. But
shout out to Pee Wee the Plug, man.
Yeah, shouts to Pierre, man. But so when we had P on, I said, like, I'm not going to overreact. Pretty much, I don't know what I said verbatim, but something to that effect. I'm not going to overreact off the highs and the lows. Like, I think this team is still in title contention in that pool, right? Just like I have OKC in that pool. But I do believe Denver's going to win it all. Like, I don't see any of these teams beating Denver, a healthy Denver, in a 7-game series. But look, I'm not putting them in the Warriors category. Like, I think the Warriors are cooked. I don't believe that to be the case when it comes to Lakers, especially if you have AD and LeBron playing at a high level. You know, Alex, you don't just give up on guys like that. Like, you can't just say they're out of it when you got two guys like that playing at a high level.
For sure. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They're 19-19 right now. I agree. The Warriors are toast, man. They're 17-19. I know it's like it's still a tight contest for that playing category in the West, but I just don't see it, man. The Warriors got too many holes. The Lakers, though, it doesn't really change anything for me, man. Like, I think they need to go on a longer winning streak and climb up the rankings in order to solidify that Darvin Ham won't get fired. Although I don't think he should be fired. I think it's just injustice for how that roster is constructed for, like, you need more shooting. As P said on the pod, you need more shooting with LeBron James if you're not going to have a guy who's going to be playing that guard position that can just be a creator for himself. So I think they got to do some trades by the deadline. But do you think that Ham will get fired, or do you think he makes it out for the rest of the season?
I don't think he gets fired.
You don't think he gets fired?
I do think there's a disconnect, especially when they're losing, as I said, because he's always talking about, like, it's only one game, and like, we have injuries, and he kind of has, like, excuses, while the team is like, no, every game is a must win. So I do see the disconnect. But at this point, I mean, he took them to the Western Conference Finals last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
With issues around the team. Like, I don't think you give up on him this early. Who are you going to bring in to make it better? That's like, is there a better option out there? I don't really know.
I don't think there is a better option. I think if you fire Ham, then if I'm any other coach, I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking that job. Like, I would just walk away.
Well,
like,
I mean, if there's a guy out the league, I'm sure, and he wants to be in the league, he'll take it, right? But yeah, I just don't see a better option than Ham.
Will that even, like, solidify that you stay in the league? I mean, if someone said, hey, you get to coach LeBron's team, and I know I won't get that much say, you know what I mean? Like, why would I want to take that and just say, oh, I need to get back in the league somehow? Where is it then like, oh, well, because you know how that narrative is. Oh, look, it's either LeBron wins the entire championship, or it's like LeBron didn't have enough. Like, that's usually how it goes. So do I want to be on that? If I'm the coach, do I want to be on that end where it's like, well, he didn't have enough. He didn't have the right coach. It's like, well, now that narrative is going out there. How am I going to get another job?
I know. It's like Ty Lue never gets enough credit, man. Like, he didn't get enough credit with the LeBron stuff. And now the Clippers are destroying everybody, and nobody's talking about the Clippers, man. Poor Ty Lue, man. Poor Ty Lue. Iverson steps over him. He doesn't get credit for winning a championship. And now this. He's killing it with the Clippers, finding all the adjustments, starting the right guy. And he still doesn't get any credit, man. Give some credit to Ty Lue out there, guys. Come on.
Not enough credit at all. All right. We got some news that happened between yesterday and today, Andrew. So I want to just run through these real quick. Let's start off with Eric Spoelstra getting that 8-year contract extension for $120+ million. Whew. I've never seen a coach get that much, at this point. What did you think about that extension when you saw it come through the wire?
Well deserved. I mean, he's by far, in my opinion, the best coach in the NBA, and the gap is widening, in my opinion. Just like how Jokic and the rest of the league, that gap is widening. I think that's also happening with the Heat. I mean, we see what he does at a talent deficit and the way his teams perform with not having as much talent as other teams. So Heat culture is a real thing. He's going to be one of those guys like Pop that finished his career on the same team he started with. And I think it's well deserved. Like, when it comes to NBA players, the best player in the league doesn't have the highest contract, even though I like Jaylen Brown's game. Like, I always thought he was closer to Tatum than people gave him credit for. Like, I like his game, but it's well-deserved. I mean, the best coach should be making the most money, and I believe he's the best coach. What are your thoughts?
I think he deserves it, man. I mean,
yeah,
outside of the Braun, D Wade, and Chris Bosh era, the Heatles when they were in Miami, right? And you have the greatest player in the league at that time on your team. He's done a lot with less, man. He's really done a lot with less. And I'm just impressed that even in the last few years where he's taken Jimmy Butler and that Miami Heat team to the NBA Finals, first time in the bubble against the Los Angeles Lakers, and now you have them just almost being eliminated in the play-in category, right? And then they make it all the way to the NBA Finals, taking down the Milwaukee Bucks, taking down the New York Knicks, then taking down the Boston Celtics. It's well-deserved, man. I mean, to get the most out of Gabe Vincent and the rest of the characters, like even Duncan Robinson too, and Martin and so forth, that's coaching, man. And they keep preaching Heat culture. If they do it again this year, I mean, we can't even make the jokes about Heat culture anymore, and to the fact of like how competitive these guys are on a year-to-year basis.
They need to make a move this year, though. Like, seriously, like I told you already. You guys don't like my idea.
Stop with the Donovan Mitchell stuff, man. Stop with the Donovan Mitchell stuff. That's the. I know CP's tuning in right now. I know he's sick.
He wasn't a fan of that either. I don't think.
No. I asked him that he was sick to his stomach. He wanted to walk off the set, man. That's how CP is right now.
You guys talked about it on the show?
Yeah, we did. I think it was that week on Friday. Yeah, it was that week on Friday when
you were like Combo's idea was crazy. You guys said
no. I just said this is Combo's idea. What do you think about that? He's like, he doesn't. CP has a hard time being, even keel about the Miami Heat discussion. Just those days of being a Knicks fan. Those days of being a Knicks fan and having to watch that era of basketball. There's still trauma. There's still trauma in CP's life.
It's funny because CP's analysis is so even keeled. So to see him upset about that a little bit, it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, no, CP's sick to his stomach, man. CP's sick to his stomach as soon as I told him that.
Shouts to CP, man.
Shout out to CP. And now since he's got the headset on, he's become a little bit more Aggie. So I want to see him. I want to ask that question. Yeah, he's got a headset now. Now he looks like he's working customer service.
Wait, so do I look like that as well? I got the headset on.
No. I'm talking about like with the microphone, like he's playing Call of Duty.
Oh, okay. Yeah. As long as the audio is good, right?
The audio is good. The audio is good. The man looks like he's playing Call of Duty.
So not to get podcast nerdy here, but it's like the audio as good as like a Shure. Like,
for 1000%.
That's dope. I like that though. You got more freedom,
Oh yeah, no, that's so now he's just CP is free as a bird over there. CP's free as a bird. All right,
there you go.
You talked about it, Andrew. You brought up the Kawhi Leonard extension for another 3 years. They're looking to get PG on the extension as well. They're trying to get the negotiations are ongoing for that. Do you think it makes sense, man, for the Clippers to stay locked in to Kawhi and Paul George as they are? I mean, they're playing phenomenal this season. Don't get me wrong, but it's been underwhelming for the most part watching the Clippers just based on they got routed by the Nuggets in the bubble. They've been load managing for God knows how long. They really underachieved. So does it make sense to extend them?
First of all, like I've always been really high on Paul George. I think he's an underrated star who has absolutely no weaknesses as a basketball player.
I see you have a type between Scotty Barnes and Paul George. There's certainly a type that you
great basketball players. But yeah, so moving forward, I mean, Ballmer's moving into this new arena, right? And I think this does have a lot to do with it. I think he wants a level of security for the long term with his star talent moving into that arena with reports of all kinds of bathrooms. Nobody's gonna ever have to wait to go to the bathroom there. That's the big thing about this new arena. He's kind of separating himself from, what are they calling it now? The crypto arena. He got his own arena now. And I think he definitely wants those two guys locked in. And watching them play at this point right now, it feels like they have a bunch of years left. And I also think with PG's ability to shoot the basketball and pass the basketball and just play the right way, I think he can reach a level of longevity in this game, even as athleticism declines, because he's so skilled and so smart at the game of basketball. I absolutely would look to signing PG-13 for the long term.
Okay. I'm just like, it makes sense with all the financial aspects of what the Clippers are doing, right? You talk about that new arena. Like, you don't want to go in there with a rebuilding team. You got to sell it out somehow. So having PG, Kawhi, that only makes sense to have on the banners just all across the arena, right?
Right.
But and you know, with the way the team's playing right now, they're 23-13. They've essentially are back on track because they started off the season strong. Do the James Harden trade was clunky with all four of those guys starting. Westbrook coming off the bench now. James Harden gaining more control of that offense, just controlling the rock. I should be a little bit more specific. Team's now 23-13, 7-3 in the last 10 games. I'm pretty sure they won 11 out of their last 14 games or something like that. 12 out of the last 14. They've been on a roll recently.
They just got better players than the other teams.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Are you buying this team though? When we think about postseason aspiration and trying to make it to a Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, I do, because they got those four guys, and I think they made the right decision with bringing Russ off the bench, because James Harden has adjusted to this situation very well, because he is one of the most elite point guards, believe it or not. Even though he scored all those points as a two-guard type player with the Houston Rockets, he's so talented, and he just knows how to put everybody in the right place. And that table setting was exactly what that team needed. So I do think they're legit title contenders, and they're going to be a really tough out in the playoffs. And as we know, there's always a caveat if they stay healthy.
For sure. And so to be specific, the Clippers are 15-3 in their last 18 games. They've been tearing it up. I think the one thing that surprises me about the Clippers is James Harden's like fit on that team, because I think that was like the big, because Russ started off really well, just being that guard that gets downhill and showing off his playmaking chops. James Harden's just, even though he's not that same guy that gets downhill in the same aggressive manner as Westbrook, I think just having a guy who still can get to his spots, he's still got to respect his shot, but his playmaking has just been setting up PG and Kawhi, and that's just taking that team to another level. And like when you have four guys that you just have to honor that way, it makes it for a difficult team. But the only, like, my only thing with that team is, like you keep saying, win healthy. Like, do you believe, like, I have to see them healthy in the playoffs? That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Because I think if they're healthy, then yeah, they got a Western Conference Finals chance. Do you put them against? All right, I'm gonna play a little game of out of the top 6 teams. Who do you see taking down in a 7-game series?
I like this, Alex. I like.
Here we go. Here we go. So in the top 6, including the Clippers, you got the Timberwolves at 1, Thunder at 2, Nuggets at 3, Clippers are at 4, Kings at 5, Pelicans at 6. So do you see the Clippers I'm going to work my way from bottom to top.
Okay.
All right. Do you see the Clippers taking out the Pelicans in a 7-game series?
With full health? Yes, definitely.
Oh, yeah. No, we're taking full health.
Okay.
This full
yes.
Health for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody's
Yes.
Full health. Full health for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Against the Kings.
Yes.
Against the Nuggets.
No.
Okay. I agree with that. I don't see them taking down the Nuggets like that. Thunder.
That's tough. But I would say because of the experience, yes.
The experience is what gives you the Thunder.
That's a close series. I want to see that series. That's a good series right there.
Okay. Clippers, Timberwolves.
That's tough too. I got the Clips.
Really? Against the Timberwolves. That's where I'm going to veer off. That I got to go with the Timberwolves on that one, just because.
You know why? If I said this, like if Kawhi is playing like Toronto Raptors Kawhi, I got Toronto in that one. Like he's different. And I love Anthony Edwards, and I love the Minnesota's defense, high-level defense. I don't think that defense matters versus Toronto Raptors Kawhi.
My only thing is when it gets down to, and I guess Tyler would make the adjustment to go small ball anyway and try to, take Zubac off the floor. But like still, even with playing like, and that's how you take Rudy Gobert off the floor. But even still, the talent of like Ant-Man, dude, like you can't stop Ant-Man. And if you get a locked-in cat who's having good numbers this year, I won't knock it. I feel like that's just tough. And then Nasri coming off the bench, that's a true 7-game series right there. It can swing any way. I feel like I think it's going to be hard for the Clippers to actually play small ball against the Timberwolves just because of that defense, though. Like the wing presence they have with McDaniels,
or because of the Timberwolves offense. If you think about it, right? Like with Cat and Gobert, like they could get killed on the boards.
They could. But the thing is, like, even if you win small ball and you left Cat out there to play the 5, which he did in the past when they made the playoffs, like you still got to guard him. Like that's still a guy that can knock down the 3 at a high rate. That's 100%. Not necessarily an easy. It's not as easy as like with Gobert on the Utah Jazz. It's like, all right, we're just gonna go small ball. Gobert can't keep up.
Right.
The recipe would be like, all right, we're gonna put Cat at the 5. Let's put Naz Reid at the 4. These guys can shoot.
That Naz I feel Reid like is so tough. That guy's good, man.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think the height when it comes to the Timberwolves is really something that's different. It's not even the star power. It's more so like when I look at a team that's that big, and especially when you can throw Cat at the 5 and just even if you play Gobert off the 4, that's different.
Yeah, I mean, look, like when you have this high level of defense, and then you have Rudy playing at a level he hasn't played since Utah, and Cat fitting in well, and then you have Anthony Edwards on your team. I mean, he's going to be like a top 5 guy in the playoffs, in my opinion. He's a future MVP. Like, I could see why you're saying that. I would also say, like, as I said, like Kawhi, Toronto Raptors Kawhi, I think we're still at a point, if he plays at that level, like that Kawhi, and even at the level he's playing now, which is pretty close to that, they have the best player on the floor, even with Anthony Edwards. And I think with James Harden setting them up, like James Harden is playing like he did in the first half of his season with the Sixers, and was part of the reason why Joel won MVP, just like putting everybody in the right spot. And from the beginning, like with this Clippers team, the gap they needed to fill was a table setter and a guy that can make the right pass at the right time from the point guard position, because I think Kawhi and PG, even though they're really good at that. Like I even mentioned how great of a passer PG is. They needed that table setter and true point guard, with James Harden has been playing like, to really fill that gap, and he filled that gap perfectly. I think they would win in 7 games, but man, it'll be close. And I'm not mad at you having the Timberwolves over the Clippers for all the reasons I just talked about.
That'd be a close one.
Yeah,
the Thunder would be a very close one too.
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun. The thing that like unlike the Timberwolves who have like the height and the size, like Chet needs another year. Chet needs like another year or so, and then I could be like, okay, that's gonna be a problem because you can't play him off the floor like that.
It would be fun to see SGA just like take over Game 7 though, and then win. That would be a moment. Like that's when, like, we're basketball guys, so we're very familiar with SGA. But I think when SGA takes out a Steph Curry, a LeBron, or Kawhi, and he's gonna take one of those guys out in this playoffs, I believe. That's when he becomes a household name, and that's when everybody starts thinking about him when it comes to the best players in the league. Even though he's that already, but I'm talking about the people that don't really watch basketball until the playoffs start. They're going to learn who SGA is this offseason.
I agree with that. SGA is just on.
He is so
30, man. He's averaging over 30.
He's just, I mean, the numbers are incredible, but when you just watch him play, it's just like, he is tough, man. That guy.
But Andrew, it's like, it's one thing to be like Joel Embiid and average over 30 because you're huge. No one can stop you. Like that's just a matchup nightmare.
He does get a lot of skill buckets though. Some would argue he should probably bully in more, you know?
No, totally. But it's still like when he decides to go bully ball, like
it's over.
Can't stop it. But for SGA, he's a guard that's just averaging 30 at will on a nightly basis. That's different. You know what I mean? And so I think he's definitely going to make that mark. And if he takes out a team like the Clippers and his old team with four all-stars on them, it's over, man. That guy is a legend in OKC instantly.
That's a fact. Yeah, it's gonna be a big. Even if OKC, I mean, they're probably not going to win a title this year, but this is going to be a big offseason for them. You know, postseason for them. It's going to be really fun.
How far do you think they make it? And we can wrap here.
Well, it depends on who they play, right? Like, what are the teams they might play? We don't have no idea how that 8 through.
If they finish, 5. I mean, if they finish where they are right now.
Let's say it ended today. Who they playing?
They're playing the Dallas Mavericks.
Man, that's tough too.
Really? You think that's tough for OKC?
Luka's different, bro.
Luka is different.
as much as all I said that about SGA, Luka's better than SGA.
Yes, but it's the thing for me. I think about the well-roundedness of the team. Like it's Kyrie and Luka, and then
OKC's a better basketball team, I would say.
Yes, like well-rounded. Like you're gonna need Luka to put up 40 every single night, plus Kyrie dropping 30 every single night.
Maybe this Pascal thing happens. Do you think that takes him over the hump?
Yes, Pascal takes him over the hump.
Jeremy Grant's another guy that could, be in the mix there.
That's another guy. Jeremy Grant. I like Jeremy Grant. Not necessarily the Pascal. He's not Pascal Siakam.
No, he's not as good as Pascal.
But
you know what?
He definitely fills a need, but it wouldn't take it over the hump like Pascal.
You know what? He is not the basketball player Pascal is, but he shoots it better, man. That guy's an improved shooter, and that fits really well around Luka.
That for sure.
Yeah,
that for sure. Where do you guys? I want to know what the chat thinks. Chat, where do you think? First of all, I'm going to ask, where do you think the OKC finishes if they make in the playoffs this year? Do you think they finish in the second round? Do they go to the Western Conference Finals? Where do you all see the OKC Thunder this season? Chat, I need to know.
Let me ask you this, Alex. What would be considered a disappointment for them? Like anything under what?
I don't think this is disappointing. If they make the playoffs this year, it's not a disappointment to me.
Even if they lose first round.
As long as it's not a gentleman's sweep, it's not a disappointment.
Okay.
To me, because this is a team that was in the plan last year. I mean, I know they weren't dead last, but it's like a first to worst type situation where they put in the work throughout the regular season. Next year, do you need to go as hard in the regular season to prove your dominance? Probably not. Then you can start figuring out which games here and there. You can start sitting players to make sure they're well rested for the playoffs. But I think as a team, as like a learning experience, it's like what the Knicks had to do last year. You can't take any nights off. You got to compete night in and night out to show that you're a legit team. OKC's got to do that because they're a young team. But this year, I don't see it being a disappointment if, let's say, they lose in a 6-7 game series to, if you're saying it's the Dallas Mavericks and you lose to Luka because Luka just goes, bonkers. How can you be mad at that?
Yeah,
like if SGA's putting up 30 and Luka's putting up like 35 on a nightly basis, and then like you have Kyrie subsidizing another 30. Like, how are you going to be angry at that when, like, look, you and I both like Jalen Williams, but is Jalen Williams going to be dropping 30 like Kyrie does, like easily? I don't think so. Like on the regular.
There's people out there that would think Kyrie is still better than SGA. There's people out there that would think that.
And they're not wrong for thinking that either.
Yeah. I mean, he's tough.
I mean, did you see what he did against the Timberwolves, man? That was lethal.
Most skillful player in the NBA. Most skillful guard.
Yeah.
Not the best, but the most skillful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think is a disappointment for OKC?
I want to see them get past the first round this year.
Oh, okay.
And if you would have said that before the season, right? But you know how it is, man. The bar changes as you get better. That's just how sports is, Like before the season, if you would have said first round, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty good. But at this point, like the way everything's fitting together and the leap that SGA took again, like I want to see them get past the first round this year. I think OKC fans would like that as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, any fan base would love to see a team get past the first round. I mean,
yeah.
Fans were hoping for that for the Sacramento Kings last season. They would get past the first round against the Warriors, but
yeah, that was a great story last year. The Kings, right? Now, see now the bar has changed for them. Like that's just how this goes.
What I'm saying, like you can at least look at last season for the Kings for a team that's been in the basement, right? And they held the longest sports drought of missing the playoffs. Now it's my beloved New York Jets, but we won't go that route. Look, they broke that. Now expectations rise, man. I mean, it's another year of together. You got Sabonis and Fox who are showing to be a solid duo. Got to keep improving off of that. But for the Thunder, you just got Chet back. Like that's what I'm like. He needs it. If he gets another year, man, and just to be like he's efficient. Like when you watch Chet ball, like when he needs to be that guy where I'm like, okay, let's just drop it to Chet because I know he's gonna get a bucket at this point. It's not like he can do that at times, but I'm saying consistently on a night-to-night basis where it's like SGA has the ball. I'm like, that thing's fallen 9 out of 10 times.
Or they make a move for marketing, and Chet definitely doesn't have to be that.
He doesn't, but is that the answer? Do you move Giddey and go get Lauri Markkanen? That's the answer?
Oh, that's a no-brainer. If all you have to give up is Giddey?
Oh, for sure. I'm saying you're doing that. But that's obviously you're doing that. But I'm saying is that what takes it over the top?
But that's not what Danny Ainge will ask for. That's what I think. Danny Ainge is going to try and get Jalen Williams, and the OKC is going to say no. You know, like, don't you think that's a no-brainer, like a Josh Giddey package?
Oh yeah, for sure. You add that, you add even more shooting and spacing.
Well, I mean, if that's the question, then that's the answer. Like, if your question is like Josh Giddey package, it's no question. Even with a whole bunch.
I'm more so asking the Lauri Markkanen part. That's my, like, I would move Giddey for Lauri Markkanen, but I'm asking you, really, is it Lauri Markkanen is that the final piece to take him to that next level?
Yeah, like, we have to see obviously how it looks, because you never know. But the way he shoots it, he could play on the ball, he could play off the ball. He's kind of like the positional need, like that bigger three. Like, they got Jalen Williams as the smaller three, but like a bigger 3-4. And you could play him even small ball 5 when Chet is out. I mean, yeah, man. I think that takes them over the hump. I would still have Denver over them, but if that fits in nicely, they're over Minnesota to me. Like, if that fits in nicely, what do you think?
You don't worry about that defense, though? You don't worry about Lauri Markkanen's defense?
Yeah, defense, me fence.
This is why you're all in on the Bucks.
You know, I would say, like, it's more important to have elite offense and good enough defense in the NBA than elite defense and good enough offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. You need to be able to make a shot at the end. Like, what's the, like, I love playing pickup basketball, man. It's always like, oh, that's great defense, that's better offense. You know what I mean? Like, when someone makes it's like, I just think about that all the time. Like, and we, as a Knicks fan, seeing that against the Miami Heat in the second round last year, you needed better offense because, and that's what the Miami Heat is the answer.
How do you feel about, like, Tibbs in the modern NBA? Like, you think what do you think about him as a coach?
We've completely gone off the rails now, but I like it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to stay on it all day. I'm curious what you think about that.
I don't think he's the guy to necessarily lead a modern offense.
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
I don't think, like, and I know Knicks fans don't like when I say I don't think he's the guy that's going to take him to that next level. I don't think the Knicks have reached that level where they need that coach that will take him to the next level. And it's like the Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. It's like Dwayne Casey to Nick Nurse. Like, every time I think about that, you're going to need somebody in this league that offensively creative, that could say, you know what, let's draw up this play right here. Let's go get somebody that open shot.
The Knicks have been very good to him. And they're making, like, every move that fits kind of like a Tibbs system at this point.
Oh, for sure. How many coaches do you know, Andrew, that you go out there and say, that's a X person's guy? Like Tibbs, like, that's a Tibbs guy. That's a Tibbs guy. That's a
Cam Reddish I didn't get, but, like, because I like Cam Reddish, but I knew that fit wasn't good. But for the most part, you're right. Like, they get Tibbs guys.
But how many other coaches do you say that for?
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, if this doesn't work out in the long run, Tibbs can't have any complaints, in my opinion. Like, he was treated well in New York.
He's got everybody that love Tibbs, loves how he created culture, love everything the dude has done. This is what he does, man. You put him on a bad team, you get the guys that he needs, he'll make them a competitive roster. Did that with the Bulls. Look, he did that with the Timberwolves, broke their playoff drought. Now did that with the Knicks. I just don't think he's that guy that will take them to the promised land.
I agree with you.
I think like when I think of what Spoelstra did in the playoffs against the Knicks, right? And just creating plays to get Duncan Robinson either going downhill or just open looks from three. That's when you start saying, that's what we need.
Look at Rick Carlisle. He's an older coach, but he adjusted. Look, the Indiana Pacers are not the team the Knicks are, but, you know, just watching how he adjusted to the modern NBA is very impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And I see people say, yeah, Tibbs has turned the Knicks around for sure. STG Nick, I do agree.
We get the chat going when we start talking Knicks.
Yeah. You know how it is. Tibbs is an awesome coach.
100%.
Awesome coach.
Look, just because you say somebody doesn't fit the modern NBA or they haven't fit their style to the modern NBA doesn't mean they're not a great coach. You know?
Yeah, and like the system looks great right now for the read and react because they got the horses to run it right. But
Hardenstein's been adding that read. He's been really good for them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what you need. You need somebody like who can do what Joakim Noah did on the Bulls, right? To find guys and who are cutting and all that type of stuff.
I always liked Hardenstein's game. Always liked his game. Yeah, he's good.
People don't know this, but Tibbs ran a similar triangular system when he was out in Chicago. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a while ago.
That is a while ago.
Yeah.
But hey, good stuff, Andrew. Good show as always. And
great stuff. This show was great.
Yeah, man. Great, yeah. Love chopping it up with you, man. Love talking basketball. Love talking hoops in general. It's always fun. Shout out to NBA Nation for tuning in for another episode of the NBA Report, man. We had SFNDR come on and break down the Raptors. Got some great insight. As he told us, man, hey, Raptors were close with the Kings on making a deal, and then all fell through.
It seems like they still are, right? Like it's not done. That's what it feels like.
Not done, but it feels like they're going back because, the Kings need stuff, man. The Kings need something, but it's just like, are you willing to give in order to get what you need? I think the one thing is, though,
if I'm the Kings, I don't know if I do that because obviously Pascal is a way better player than Keegan right now, right? But Keegan is a lot younger, fits their timeline, and he fits their system really well, at the same time. So it's like, maybe you just take, I know everybody wants to make the splashy move, but maybe sometimes you just incrementally get better over time, and then you see yourself there,
That's what the Knicks are doing, man. Sometimes it's just, you got to be patient. You got to go through the process, man. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. Rome was not built in a day. But salute to everyone for tuning in for another show, man. Andrew, great conversation as always. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to share the links to all these videos. If you can't catch it live, you can download us on any audio listening platform that you listen to, Apple, Spotify, whatever it may be. You can go catch us there if you can't catch the show live. And hey, Andrew's dropping some episodes right now. Andrew dropped some heat with Pee Wee the Plug earlier this week, man. I was tuning in last night. I was like, ooh, I got to listen to this. You guys had a great conversation.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it
Thank
you. Thoroughly. Man, so nice. I had to listen to it twice. That's what I got to say about that episode. Man, it was that good. It was that good.
Wait, you really listened to that twice, Alex?
Thanks, man. Twice. Wow. Yeah, man. That was a good episode.
That made my day right there.
There you go. Look, man, I recommend everybody go tune into it if you have not already. So make sure to go check out Andrew's conversation with Pee Wee the Plug. That was another great one. Another solid drop by Andrew. And guys, look, make sure to support our sponsor, Prize Picks. Okay, make sure to use that promo code NBAR to get up to a $100 match. It's fun, easy to use. Download the app. All right, everyone. We'll catch you later this week, Friday, 3 p.m. as always for another show. We out.